Oh, it's a victorious Monday morning show here on Bird 365. Johnny Mac making his way back from Detroit City, so we've got Jeff Kerr instead. With me, Jody McDonald. It's a good day to be here on Birds 365 because the Eagles put forth a very good effort yesterday in a blowout win over the Detroit Lions. Jeff Kerr, he put money away for the Super Bowl for the Eagles after yesterday's performance. The Eagle fans get real psyched up about this win.
I wasn't psyched up about this win, and they won by 38. It's such an enigma to me with this team. I want to see them do it against the Chargers next week, who, by the way, have lost 2 in a row. So I'm not ready to punch my Super Bowl ticket yet, but I will be that guy. They are one game out of the playoff spot, and they own the tiebreaker over the team that has the 7th seed.
There you go. We can go positively with that, and we will over the course of today's 2-hour show because tomorrow is NFL trade deadline day, and does yesterday's result change Howie Roseman's thinking as to what he was doing? And you can say all you want about, well, they didn't declare themselves a seller. You move Zach Ertz, you're officially a seller. He may not say it, he might not admit to it, but actions speak louder than words, and they sold off a guy who could help them win games last week. It was the right thing to do, but them trying to deny that they weren't sellers doesn't hold any water with me. The question is, will they continue to be sellers? And they may even attempt to sell and just not be able to get anything done, or they may actually believe that they're in it, as Jeff Kerr just said, quoting the standings with a half a season to go, that they're still in it and actually try and add a piece. Could be very interesting next 20 plus hours leading up to the trade deadline. A dominant win by the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday. And Jeff, the reason why I at least give them their credit for their win is they dominated in the trenches. And that was something that those of us who are at least quasi-optimistic about the Eagles, I thought they could win 8 games, which would get them close to 500. Was because they were pretty damn good in the trenches on both the offensive line and the defensive line. Well, the defensive line this side of Mr. Hargrave has not been great at all. Oh, they were great yesterday. And the offensive line, which has had an injury issue or two, still have one with Brooks out of the lineup, got to do what every offensive lineman likes to do. Drive blocking, run blocking, just let me maul the guy standing in front of me. And it worked like a charm for Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, it did. And one thing I really liked about yesterday, Jody, obviously, they run the ball 46 times and thrown it only 19, something like that. It was a really high run to pass ratio. And it wasn't skewed because they were up so much. They just kept pounding the football. And that's one thing I really like what Nick Sirianni did yesterday. He said, look, we're getting 5-6 yards of carry here. We're just going to keep it up because they can't stop us. And good teams in this league run the football. A lot of the good teams in this league. Baltimore is one of them. Again, it's just one of those factors that you have to help this quarterback out as much as you can. And Jalen Hurts don't care. He only threw the ball 14 times yesterday. I'm sure Devonta Smith doesn't really care. He only had, 2 targets, I think, throughout the entire game, 1 catch for 15 yards, because the Eagles just kept moving the chains. And on defense, Jonathan Gannon actually listened to his players. Now, Fletcher Cox did get paid to cover a screen and did make a tackle yesterday, but he had a pretty good game. The defensive line, they got some extra helpers on the blitz packages as well. I thought that was a big thing. Oh, and by the way, Jared Goff is not a good quarterback. He is definitely not Derek Carr.
That's certainly the case. I saw a stat, I think it was Tim McManus from ESPN added, the highest percentage of running the football. The Eagles ran at 69% of the time. Their highest in 20 years. 20 years. I remember the 30 years. I remember the game the last time they ran it this much. It was against the Buccaneers in 1991. Heath Sherman himself carried it 35 times. The Eagles, that they ran it 41. Heath carried it 35 times by himself because they had the immortal Brad Gable at quarterback. And Rich Kotite wanted no part of throwing the football. Gable threw 2 picks in 20 attempts. As a matter of fact, the Eagles blew a 13-0 lead and lost 14-13. But that was the most abused I've ever seen a running back in my life. To that point, and since that Heath was asked to carry it 35 times, they spread it out nicely yesterday. Boston Scott carrying the football. Here comes Mr. Jordan Howard off the practice squad to go in and tote it and get it into the end zone twice. Not only was it what Eagle fans like to see, which is a better balance of running the football to passing the football, but even amongst the backs that carried, Jalen Hurts still led them in rushing with his own production when he pulled it down and took off. That's the way Eagle fans like to see the Eagle offense run.
I agree. And I'll tell you who was in line for a really huge game yesterday before the unfortunate injury, Jalen Reagor. He had 2 carries for 21 yards, and he almost had the touchdown there. I think he ended up with 3 carries for 22 yards, but they were really using Jalen Reagor, I thought, to his strengths with motion and with reverses and counters. And I like that about Jalen Reagor. And I thought Jalen Reagor was going to be in line for a huge day. But that kind of set the tone for what they were doing offensively. I mean, they went to Boston Scott early, and then they went to Jordan Howard. And you didn't see any of Kenny Gainwell. But, Jalen Hurts, if there wasn't a play there, he tucked it down. He ran, had that nice juke. I think it was in the third quarter yesterday. It was a well-balanced attack. And it was weird, Jody, because I'm thinking to myself, I haven't seen them run the football with this precision since probably 2003. And lo and behold, I think it was the 2003 game against the Saints was the last time they had 3 players have over 50 yards rushing. It was McNabb, it was Stu Staley, and it was Brian Westbrook. And lo and behold, the Eagles got 3 players who had over 50 yards rushing. They would have kept those 3 in. They might have all gotten over 100.
Another good stat that I saw, and I think I got to give credit to Reuben Frank for this one. Eagles with 2 running backs with 2 touchdowns apiece. Yesterday, that was the case with Boston Scott and with Howard. The last time that happened, back to Wilbert Montgomery. You got to go all the way back to, and who was the other one? I wrote it down here, and I can't even remember. Leroy Harris. The immortal Leroy Harris had 2 touchdowns for the Eagles in the game. Now, that's before my time here in Philadelphia, and I came into town 30 years ago. I surely do remember that Heath Sherman game against the Bucs in 1991. I never saw Leroy Harris carry the football live, only on CBS or whoever's doing the NFL, NFC games at that time. Yeah, this was a record-setting performance. Turn back the clock by the Philadelphia Eagles. So you got to give credit to those guys who produced and carried the ball and got those touchdowns. The offensive line, who loves to do the drive blocking, they did. But most of all, even above the running backs themselves, I got to give credit to Nick Sirianni. And I know we all poked fun at him last week with his flower analogy, but I did say, show me something, coach. Show me the ability to be flexible. He was talking a good game about growth and you got to water and fertilize and everything else, and I'm rolling my eyes. But he did show me something really significant yesterday. Yeah, he showed the ability to be diverse. He showed the ability to go against, quote unquote, his core values. Because after watching the Eagles' first 7 games, you believed that his core values had to be throw, and then throw some more. No, he went back to a running game against the team that was absolutely capable of being run against. Afterwards, he did explain that, hey, we're going to do what we need to do to win games. And that's his job, is to figure out ahead of time exactly what they need to do before the game actually takes place. He went against what we've seen for the first 7 games. He ran the ball down the Lions' throat. That's a very good sign if you're an Eagle fan, that your coach can realize, all right, if what I'm doing isn't working, then I have to be flexible and willing to make changes. And Sirianni did just that.
And I like what he said in the postgame presser yesterday. It was, I think it was early in the presser too. He goes, well, I noticed on Monday that we could run the ball against this football team when we were going to do that. And I hope he realizes it now that the team that they're playing this week, they can run the football against, because the Chargers are the worst run defense in football. And you're right, Jody. If that's what it's going to take for this team to win games, then kudos to Nick Sirianni. And, people are going to be like, well, why did it take him to week 8 to figure that out? I'm like, well, hold on a second. Let's back up. As much as we want to get on the guy, he is a first-year head coach in the NFL who has only coached 8 games. And it does take some time for these coaches to kind of get used to the week-by-week process of the NFL. Yeah, I'm sure he wants to throw the football. I'm sure the owner and the general manager want him to throw the football, see what this quarterback is. But the quarterback looked pretty good yesterday, despite only throwing 14 attempts. And, yeah, he didn't look great on certain – but, look, they won the football game, and that's all he cares about. That's all the coach cares about. And, look, Nick Sirianni is not going to get slammed this week because he did what he was supposed to do. He took advantage of a bad defense, a really bad run defense, pounded the football into the ground, and look what the offense did. They scored over 40 points. Well, technically, he scored 38 points, but still, this team scored on 6 consecutive possessions yesterday. I did not think we would see the Eagles do that at any point this year.
And they did just that by pounding the ball down the opposition's throat. Now, we're all in a good mood. We're all talking up there. We're all excited because they got a blowout win. I should be the Eagle fans' favorite this week because, as Xander, our producer, told me before the show, I was the only of all the JAKIB Media personality guys that we have here on the channel. I was the only one that picked a blowout win. And I took the Eagles to win by 10 points. I said, wouldn't be surprised if they won by 2 touchdowns. I'd love to sit here and tell you that I said the Eagles are going to win by 38. Yeah, nobody saw that coming, okay? But being the guy who actually, and I said on my podcast on Hot Read Hits, I teased the Eagles up to 10 points. I thought they had a chance to win by double digits, and I got better than 2-1 odds, but with the Eagles favored by more than 10. So I had a very good day with the Eagles yesterday. That being said, the Detroit Lions are terrible. And I guess I was the only one who acknowledged that and realized that before the game was played. They beat the snot out of the worst team in the National Football League. And that is a league that includes the Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's only one team that hasn't won a game yet, and that's the Detroit Lions. And the Eagles needed to put the beat down on them. They did just that. More power to them. It's going to get tougher with the Chargers coming to town this week. The schedule is easier. You got a couple Giants games, a couple Washington football team games in there, and the Giants haven't lost yet this week yet. They play tonight against Kansas City. I think it's a foregone conclusion they're going to go down. But we did have some. Hey, my Jets won yesterday. Couldn't believe they beat the Bengals. So I guess I shouldn't put the L up against the Giants just yet. Yeah, I will. They're not going to win tonight.
I will too.
Chiefs are going to beat them. Yeah, beating the Lions. All I'm saying is enjoy it. Feel free to celebrate it. Feel free to feel good about it. Don't get over the top emotional about it because they beat the worst team in the National Football League.
Yeah, I'm not getting too excited over this. Look, they won by 38 points yesterday. And I'm like, well, okay, yeah, they should beat the Lions. Not by 38, but they should beat the Lions. And look, I'm one of those people. I picked the Lions to beat them. I did. I picked the Lions to beat them. I thought this was a terrible week for them. The sky was falling after a terrible loss to Vegas. They just didn't look good. The coach didn't look like he was going to adjust. And we're hearing flower analogies. And we're getting guys like Jack Stoll, of all people, defending Nick Sirianni, which, sorry, that just doesn't move the needle for me when defending a head coach. And, Jonathan Gannon was pretty arrogant on Tuesday. And I'm like, well, it just doesn't look good. And there was too much karma going in one direction. So I'm like, you know what? The Lions are going to get a win at some point because they should have had 2 wins before yesterday. But again, I think every Eagles fan saw that. They probably watched the Lions for the first time yesterday. Oh, this is why this team's 0-8, because their quarterback isn't good. You put pressure on him. He makes mistakes. By the way, Jared Goff is 0-15 now without Sean McVay as his head coach. So that's pretty tough. But one thing I got to give the Eagles credit for, the 2 guys I thought that could torch them yesterday, they shut down for the most part. DeAndre Swift, I think he only had like 29 yards rushing. He did not score a touchdown for the first time in a couple weeks. And TJ Hawkinson, I mean, yeah, he had a couple of early catches, but he didn't beat him downfield like I thought he was going to do. They kind of just gave him those 5-yard route, and they tackled him right away. And I got to give the Eagles credit for that. And look, the Lions' offensive line is banged up, but their defense is god-awful. And that's why they're 0-8. Their defense just can't stop anybody. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, okay, they got a big game next week against the Chargers, but the Chargers are coming in losing 2 in a row, and they got to go to the East Coast. So Justin Herbert's a really good quarterback. They're going to have their hands full there. But as you said, Joey, the schedule does get easier. It does, because then you got Denver coming up, and you got to go Denver. But then you got the Saints, and all of a sudden, I know they're good. They're really good, but Jameis Winston is not going to be their quarterback the rest of the season. He's out. Drew Brees ain't coming back. It might be Trevor Siemian for that game. So it's going to get interesting for this team for sure.
First thing on TJ Hawkinson, he did have 10 catches, 11 targets, 10 catches. That's pretty high percentage to make the catches. 89 yards. He didn't even get to 100 yards with 10 catches. That's not a guy out of the back. That's a tight end. He's supposed to be able to get up the field some. The Eagles let them catch underneath. They tackled. That was one thing the Eagle defense did yesterday. They tackled. They're not a bad tackling team. They always leave themselves room. They just let people catch it too far down the field in front of them. They pushed the safeties up. And yes, Jonathan Gannon, I'm giving credit to Nick Sirianni because he proved when I have to adjust, I will adjust. Same thing for Jonathan Gannon. And I was pretty critical of him over the last couple of weeks against Tampa and against the Raiders, that he just sits in that zone defense and just dies by 1,000 paper cuts. Death is death is death. He didn't. He adjusted yesterday. Although none of the blitzers got home and got any sacks, he came with a couple of different blitzes from a couple of different areas. It opened things up for the other guys on the defensive line to get not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, 6 sacks for the Eagle defense yesterday. That's a tip of the cap to Jonathan Gannon, because much like Nick Sirianni, he talked the talk. He had faith in his system. I don't have a system. We're going to – well, no, it looked the same to me every single week for the first 7 weeks. He mixed it up yesterday. He showed some flexibility. That's a good sign for the Eagles defense going forward.
Yeah, it's almost like the Eagles did not face Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Derek Carr, or a really good quarterback this week, and it kind of helped. But you're right, Jody. He did make the adjustments. You know, he didn't play his safeties as deep as he could. And I think that's more of – look, you guys have what? Khalil Raymond at receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. These two ain't beating us. They're not. You know, this isn't Mike Evans, Chris Godwin going up against them. This isn't Henry Ruggs and Byron Edwards. You know, this is who the Lions are. They are very weak at receiver. They probably have the worst receiving core in the National Football League. And John McMullen said, you know what? You're going to beat us. You're going to have to get the ball out quick. And Jared Goff just couldn't do that. They got him out of his comfort zone. And next thing you know, Josh Sweat's having 2 sacks. And I had not noticed until yesterday, Javon Hargrave was the only Eagles player with over 2 sacks until Josh Sweat had 2 yesterday. So, yeah, that was pretty interesting. I think it was the Eagles' first time they had 6 sacks in the game since 2011 or something like that. It was definitely a day where the defensive line got the feast on Jared Goff. And look, the Lions had no Big V. He was out. Taylor Decker's been out. I mean, they're just beat up on the inside. Oh, and by the way, Penei Sewell, I think he's going to be a good prospect in this league. Josh Sweat and Derek Barnett, they kind of beat him to shreds yesterday. They welcomed him to the league in a big way.
They did, and that's kudos and credits to Jonathan Gannon because he showed the flexibility to be able to do different things, but it was to the Lions. I'm sorry, Eagle fans. I must come back to this every, I don't know, 5, 10, 20 minutes on the show. I'll try not to do it too often, but the truth is the truth. They beat up the worst football team in the worst squad in the National Football League. That's the Detroit Lions. So win is a win is a win. 3-5 and 3-5 is not terrible. Will Howie Roseman, this is what we're going to discuss with our first guest when he joins us. Will Howie Roseman do a 180 and turn into a buyer at the trade deadline tomorrow afternoon? Because give me the stats about the Eagles' playoff positioning as of right now, Jeff Kerr.
Well, you want the good news or the bad news?
I want the good news.
All right. Well, the good news is they're only 1 game out of the Carolina Panthers. Oh, and by the way, they beat the Carolina Panthers. And they would tie them. They would own the tiebreaker. Now, here's the bad news. They are 11th in the playoff standings. There are a couple teams ahead of them. And one of them beat them, the San Francisco 49ers. So, again, it's all hope is not lost. That's all I'm saying, Jerry.
The other problem that is a reality is the Dallas Cowboys with Cooper Rush rallied to get a win last night. I thought they were dead in the water. I loved the Cowboys all week because I thought Dak Prescott was going to play. I had heard that, all right, he's not practicing, but he's feeling better and he's talking a good game. And then as the week went on, people started to believe he wasn't going to play. The line went from Cowboys minus 1.5 to the Cowboys giving 1.5 to Cowboys getting 4 points. The line moved over 5 points.
I jumped on it too because I think the NFC North stinks, and I was right. I'm like, okay, I don't know if Cooper Rush can beat them or not, but I'm going to take Cowboys in this one straight up. Oh man, I cashed in last night.
Yeah, and Cooper Rush with a late touchdown pass to Amari Cooper won. So yeah, the Cowboys are going to win the NFC. Sorry to say, the Eagle fans, they're just not going to give up the division. They've got, as of right now, 1 loss. The Eagles have 5. The Redskins have 6. And the Giants will get their 6-1 tonight. So, yeah, I'm thinking the Cowboys are in pretty good stead.
By the end of the night, the Eagles will be in second place in the NFC East if the Giants lose.
Yeah, second place. Not the worst place in the world to be. All right, he is Jeff Kerr. I'm Jody McDonald. We are your Birds 365 guys today. Johnny Mack coming back from Detroit. He'll be back on the show here tomorrow. Coming up next, we talked to one of our faves. Covered the Eagles forever. Still doing work. Now he's working with McMullen. I feel badly about that. But our buddy Paul Domowitch joins us next here on Birds 365.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the memories. Go for the view that goes on forever. Go for the bubbles in your bathtub and in your drink. Go to bed whenever you want. Or don't. Go for him. Go for her. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
The live post-game show is powered by IBEW Local 98.
In Philadelphia, we celebrated the miracle with pride only 5 years ago. And then the following morning, IBEW Local 98 members went back to work, building this city, rescuing our communities from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are. Like the Cats, Local 98 members believe in hope. John Doherty, business manager of Local 98, says it this way: the best way not to forget where you come from is to never leave.
Hope you caught the live Eagles post-game show after yesterday. Glad some smiles on the faces of the crew here on the JAKIB YouTube channel. Jody McDonald and Jeff Kerr, your Birds 365 guys on this Victory Monday. We are lucky to be joined by our buddy Paul Domowitch, doing some work from Philly Mag these days. Got to watch the game from the comforts of his own couch yesterday, which is never a bad thing. Damo, what point did you say, all right, I can hit the man? If I got to hit the men's room, I can go now. This game is over. I don't have to worry about missing a big play.
Pretty early. Yeah. It became pretty clear that even, as bad as the Eagles defense has been, that Detroit was not going to be scoring many points yesterday. So,
yeah, Paul, it looked early on that the Eagles really wanted to set the tone running the football. And I kind of knew this was going to happen when Boston Scott scored his first touchdown with ease. And it just seemed to snowball from there.
Yeah, I mean, they just decided, and rightfully so, knowing Detroit's defense, they were going to go out there and as long as they were, didn't fall behind early, they were just going to pound the ball. I mean, everything was, most of their runs were between the tackles with Scott, with Howard. They didn't use Gainwell much until the end, I think mainly because that's not what he does best. I mean, running up the gut. I mean, they wanted power runners, and it was just, I mean, it was a game we're not going to see again in our lifetime. 16 pass attempts. I believe the last time the Eagles had that few pass attempts was 1995. 46 rush attempts. I think 2013 was the last time they had that many. So, I think we're going to see a similar template, at least hopefully this week against another team that can't stop the run. But that's going to be dictated largely by whether the defense can slow the Chargers offense down. So, but yeah, it was for all the people that have been after Nick to run the ball, that was he gave them what they wanted yesterday.
A little bit of a tougher task next week against Justin Herbert than they had against Jared Goff. Agreed on that front. But they did score a touchdown right off the bat the same way they did the previous week against the Raiders. Last week against the Raiders, they allowed the Raiders then rip off 30 consecutive points. This week, no such being the case. Jared Goff was a pretty damn good quarterback when he was with the Rams. I thought that they was starting off a pretty good career. I thought we were going to have this great comparison between Carson Wentz with the Eagles and Jared Goff with the Rams. Good luck. Neither one of them where they were to start their careers. What's happened to Jared? Was it just the fact that the Rams were that good and he had that many weapons around him? How has this guy gotten so bad so fast?
Yeah, I mean, the statistics were comparable, but when Sean McVay was that quick to make that trade, you knew, Sean McVay's pretty smart. Matt Stafford is just absolutely putting up numbers that are not of this world out there with the Rams now. And Goff doesn't have the cast he had in with the Rams, which hurts. But he just doesn't even look like the same quarterback that he did when he was playing well with the Rams. I mean, yesterday, all he could do was throw the TJ Hawkinson or get sacked. The Eagles turned up the heat. They were more aggressive. Jonathan Gannon shook up his linebacking core. I mean, Eric Wilson was inactive. Alex Singleton, I think, played the 20 snaps compared to TJ Edwards and Davion Taylor. So they were much more aggressive, filling holes, not allowing people to get to the second level on them. And, Josh Sweat and the defensive line were just great. They played really well yesterday. Their best game of the season.
Yeah, Paul, one of the interesting tidbits I have with the Lions team was I thought they played hard under Dan Campbell through their first 7 games, even with the record.
Yeah.
Yesterday showed signs of, I don't want to say they were checking out, but they're by the way, this was a football team that we know we had a chance to beat. Did it feel that way to you as the game was going on?
Yeah, Jeff, I was one of those guys. I mean, I like Dan Campbell. I've known him since he was a player. He's a tough guy. I think he's going to be a good coach. And for a long time there, I mean, this team was playing hard and they were playing well. I mean, they lost 2 games to good teams by 2 points, on last second field goals. And then yesterday happens and you get to the third quarter and it looked like they just, cashed out. I mean, there were some players that didn't look like they wanted to be there. I'm assuming that they're going to, a lot of them after when they look at the film, Dan Campbell's going to be reading them the riot act because I don't think this team, he's going to allow this team to quit on them. If it does, he'll find new players that won't quit on him. But for the Eagles, it was a good day to have Detroit do that and not bring their A game like they did against Baltimore and some of the other teams they played tough.
Donald, one of the things I want to know from yesterday's game was, despite Boston Scott stepping into the lead back role, and he looked pretty damn comfortable doing it, despite Jordan Howard coming out of mothballs in the practice squad, getting into the end zone twice, good for him. Eagles' leading rusher was still Jalen Hurts. He still led the way with 71 yards. And although you're going to look at his passing numbers and go, well, Jalen Hurts was along for the ride yesterday, he did nothing. Incorrect. His 71 yards on the ground were a key to the Eagles being able to win the football team. Will he get the credit he deserves for that?
Well, I mean, a lot of people don't want him to run. I mean, there are just a lot of people still that believe a quarterback, all you're going to do is get your quarterback hurt in that situation. I don't agree. I mean, it's one of his assets. It's no matter how much his passing game develops, and you would hope it's going to develop here because it still has a ways to go. His ability to do what he did yesterday still is something that very few quarterbacks in this league can do. I mean, right now, I think he had 4 more rushing first downs yesterday out of those 70 yards. So that puts him. I mean, he's the only quarterback in the league with more rushing first downs is Lamar Jackson,
right.
and it's close. So I mean, you need that from him, especially now when it's. You still want to see him when he goes to extend the play to the right. You'd kind of like him to complete a pass now and then. We haven't seen that lately. I think yesterday it was kind of nice to, him and Goedert developed some chemistry yesterday. I think I think Goedert finished with 6 catches. So there seems to be a comfort level developing there. But I haven't seen, the all 22 tape doesn't come out for a couple of days. But you could see even on the telecast and the replays that Jalen missed some receivers occasionally. Like you could see that he should have been able to find some people open underneath that he didn't, or a check down, and that'll come. I mean, I think he's going to keep getting better. But back to your original question, Jody, that running ability is going to be important now. It's going to be important in week 17. It's going to be important next year if he's still the starting quarterback.
Yeah, Paul, I kind of want to elaborate on the Jalen Hurts thing. Like, when I was going down social media in the fourth quarter yesterday, people were still criticizing this quarterback, and he was out of the game. They're like, well, they're running to disguise the fact he can't throw, or, it's his 12th career start. We're tired of hearing that. I'm like, what does this guy need to do? Like, he can't help it. He threw 14 passes and they won yesterday. I just don't understand. What do fans want in this guy?
Yeah, I don't know either, Jeff. I mean, people need to go back and look at the stats of quarterbacks in this league and good quarterbacks after 12 starts, and you'll see that there's not much of a difference between what they did stat-wise after 12 games and what Jalen's done. He's had some good moments, and he'll be the first to admit, and so will Nick Sirianni, that he's got a long way to go with regard to improvement. But I mean, I think that's knowing his intelligence, knowing his background. I mean, a coach's kid, and the offenses. He's played for 6 different offenses in 6 years. I think he's going to keep getting better, and I don't think we'll be seeing these same questions asked a year from now, assuming he's the starting quarterback that we're seeing now.
And another thing that I will give to Jalen Hurts credit, and also gives a little bit more. I don't think yesterday was a game where everybody's going to say, well, he's our quarterback for the future. I don't believe that happened. But just keep this in mind. On several plays yesterday, they had him under center, and he actually faked the handoff. An actual play-action pass, not an RPO, which is different, but an actual play-action pass. Lo and behold, a wide receiver who's wide open that he delivered the football to without issue. They had not done that almost at all in the first 7 games. Everything's got to be out of shotgun. Everything's got to be an RPO. Actual play-action passes work when you try them, Nick Sirianni. He did so yesterday, was successful with it, and Jalen Hurts did a good job of selling it, in my mind.
I mean, this offense is evolving, guys, and Nick Sirianni's trying to figure out what, like you do with every quarterback, what Jalen does best, what he's most comfortable with. We saw the same thing with Carson. I mean, Carson fought on a lot of things he didn't feel he was good at or comfortable throwing. It took even the 2017 after he got hurt with Nick. I mean, they had to throw a lot out going into the playoffs before they realized this is what Nick can do. Nick has a playoff for the ages because he was good at RPOs, which is ironic because he can't run, and people think you have to be able to run RPOs. But so it's Nick's still in that process of, and Jalen's still in the process of trying to get the two of them get on the same page and figure out how do you maximize his talents.
Well, Jordan Howard yesterday, I forget what the final numbers were. I think it was like 10 carries, 55 yards, something like that. And I'm thinking to myself, I think it was on his second carry. Really, Howie? It took you 7 weeks to promote this guy? Like, what were they doing?
I have no idea. I mean, he looked good yesterday. I don't think Nick has, until yesterday and I think it's the reason Boston Scott hasn't played a lot either is, they bring power to the offense. And I don't think Nick had that as a high priority. I mean, he wants guys that can catch the ball out of the backfield. Boston can, but it's not his strength. I mean, his strength is what he did yesterday, just pound the rock. Jordan Howard really isn't a very good pass catcher out of the backfield. So I think that's why those two guys were kind of like, one wasn't being used and the other wasn't even on the roster. But I think yesterday they realized, well, especially with Miles out, you can't do that with Gainwell. So at least one of them's going to see a lot of action here until Sanders gets back as the guy that takes the ball between the tackles.
Damo, Howie Roseman, not the most popular figure here in town. I know it was just 4 years ago that he won the Super Bowl, but he has fallen out of favor with most Eagle fans, which is not a surprise. I get a bunch of calls on WIP about fire Howie. Howie's got to go. I try and be balanced in my evaluation of Howie. I give him credit for what he does well, which is salary cap management and playing the salary cap game. I question Howie where he needs to be questioned, his ability to draft. Well, his strength of being able to play the salary cap game, he may have dropped the ball here. Dallas got to look very good yesterday since Zach Ertz left, and he is now the unquestioned TE1 and is getting that many more targets and making that many more plays. Every time he catches a ball, I hear a cha-ching in the back of my head that he's going to get paid, and he's going to be paid that much more. Did Howie Roseman drop the ball by not getting Goedert done to a contract extension before he traded Zach Ertz?
Well, he tried. So, and since we weren't in the room and I haven't heard the numbers, we don't know what he was, what their best offer was. My guess is Dallas and his agent realized that his value was only going to keep getting better, whether Zach stayed or left. And so it didn't benefit them, aside from the fact that, the main thing a football team has as far as the incentive to get a guy signed early, especially a guy with an upside like Dallas, is the fear of getting hurt. I mean, if Dallas tore his ACL, suddenly his value is not anything like it will be if he stays healthy and keeps playing like this. So, and I think Dallas just decided to roll the dice. He said, I'm going to be very rich, whether it's here or someplace else after the season. And unless you're going to make me like an offer I can't refuse, which they didn't, I'm going to walk away. And I also think, as good as Dallas is, this team's kind of in a transition here from a team that played a lot of 12 last, under Doug Peterson, and where Dallas had a big role and still will, but they just love those young receivers. And so you got to think ahead to where you're going to put your money in 2-3 years. They want to keep Dallas. I think they think he's going to be a very important part of this offense, but they weren't going to overpay him. And so now they wait until the season's over to get a deal done.
Yeah, speaking of the young receivers, Paul, Jalen Reagor, I thought was en route to maybe his best game in the NFL. Looked like he was going to have a promising day, then had the unfortunate injury. What did you like what the Eagles were doing with him prior to the injury?
Well, they got him in space and used him not like you'd expect. It was mostly as a runner, jet sweep, a couple of other plays similar to that. But that's how. Coming out of college, you knew that was the best way to use Jalen Reagor. Just get him in space, bubble screens. He wasn't going to set records. Running down the field, even though he has speed, even though that's one of the things that attracted them. He wasn't going to catch 10 balls a game unless they were like short bubbles and stuff like that. But that's how you want to maximize them. And they started doing that yesterday. And then he got hurt, and I don't know the severity. I got a feeling it's pretty serious.
That is unfortunate because he did make a couple of good plays early in that game. All right, want to flip it over to the defensive side of the ball, giving Nick Sirianni credit for showing his flexibility. Same thing goes for Jonathan Gannon. His defense looked way too similar week in and week out for the first 7 weeks of the season. He adjusted. He made some different reads into his defense yesterday, including bringing a blitz every once in a while, which they had done very little in the first couple of weeks of the year. We know that Philadelphia Eagle fans love the blitz. And even though none of the blitzers got home, it did open things up for the defensive linemen. 6 sacks yesterday. should we be getting overly excited about this, or should we chalk this one up to, the quarterback, like the whole Lions team is not very good. Jared Goff can't get away from a rush. How excited should Eagle fans be with the 6-sack game yesterday, Damo?
Well, I mean, it definitely was a step in the right direction. I mean, they need that pass rush, or everything else falls apart, because the rest of their defense is not that particularly strong. I think we'll get a better gauge this week against a better offense on whether Jonathan Gannon intends to continue to be this aggressive, whether he's going to continue to throw in some blitzes, whether he's going to continue to have his linebackers attack more and try to get into the backfield. But we won't know until Sunday. I mean, against the Lions, I think he just felt, we can do this even if it backfires, even if some of this stuff doesn't work. It will be okay. But the Chargers are a pretty good offense. Justin Herbert is a lot better against the blitz than Jared Goff. So, but we'll see Sunday what Gannon does and how it works.
Paul, the Eagles decided to not play Eric Wilson yesterday. One of their big free agent signings, inactive, 8th game of the year. Anthony Harris was out yesterday, but Kayvon Wallace and Marcus Epps, they played pretty well. I know it was the Lions, but do you think we could see a trend here with some of these guys that they brought in this offseason just not playing as the season goes on?
I give them credit. These are guys that the Gannon liked, and had an influence on how he's signing. And they haven't been playing well. Harris hasn't been playing well. Wilson has just stunk up the place. And they had no hesitation to sit him down. So I give Gannon a lot of credit for that. He realized I got to make some changes. And those were 2 good moves to make. There's a few other people that I'm waiting for him to kind of, Ryan Kerrigan's bringing nothing to the table. Guys like that, but the people you need to play well, Sweat, Cox played a little better yesterday. Derek Barnett played well. Even Davion Taylor. I mean, it's, if that kid can develop, and I still question that because he just doesn't have as for all his speed, he's not a very instinctive player and didn't, he never played in high school. Wasn't much of a difference maker at Colorado. But maybe the light's going to go on here and he's going to turn out to be a decent player for them. But I was happy to see those moves by Gannon.
Need your take on this one, Damo. You've been covering Eagles for a lot of years in locker rooms. Unfortunately, nobody gets in the locker room after the game anymore, so you can't get a feel on the players the way you used to. But I know that you've experienced this before. I say this all the time in all sports. If you're going to have a successful season, every team wants and needs a blowout win where you just have the game decided by 3 quarters, sometimes as early as half. I'd say by halftime, yes, I was pretty damn sure that the Eagles were going to win. But there's a juncture in the game where you go, all right, this one's over. And it allows the coach to use the guys who don't get a lot of time into a game, to get them out there, to get them starting. Football, it's snaps, NBA, it's minutes, baseball, it's at-bats, whatever it turns out to be. But it gives you the chance to use some guys because you need your whole team to be able to win. The Eagles got that yesterday. Am I overstating the case that this can be a positive when you have a game where you just stomp on the opponent and you allow everybody to contribute in some way, shape, or form? It helps you going forward. Do you think that's the case with the Eagle win yesterday?
I think it's helpful. I think it was helpful to get Minshew in for a few snaps. I also think, not many people have dwelled on the fact that this is a 17-game season this year for the first time ever. And I think you saw it in Dallas with the decision to not play Dak Sunday. Would they have in a 16-game season? Probably, because I think that calf injury is a little more serious than we think. But you've got to pace yourself. And when you have a game like this that affords you that opportunity without having to make hard decisions and sit guys down just for the sake of sitting them down and getting them some rest, it's very beneficial. And you're going to need, plus you never know who's going to get hurt down the road here. So I think it's good that, all of their backup offensive linemen got more snaps and some other guys. So yeah, it's definitely a plus.
Well, fans don't want to hear this, but I can tell how some players think sometimes. And if you look at the standings, J Mac and I were talking about this today, they are one game out of a playoff spot, and they own the tiebreaker against the team who has that terrible 7 seed in the NFC. Do you think this changes Howie Roseman's thinking this week in terms of, okay, maybe I might try to add somebody in here to make this roster a little bit better?
Yeah. I wouldn't think so, Jeff. I can't imagine who out there, he doesn't want to shake things up too much because it's such a remote possibility. I mean, but they went into this season with the attitude that initially I think they thought, well, okay, we're just going to completely rebuild. We're just going to, bite the bullet. Then they realized, we've got some, we've got a pretty good offense, a lot of offensive skill position people, a good offensive line if it stays healthy. Maybe we can, if things fall right, maybe we can be in the mix come December. And I think that's where they still are because, you look at their schedule right now. It's not, they've gotten through the hard part. So, if you're Howie, you're sitting there thinking you're going to be, you're going to have more days like yesterday than like the week before. So I'm sure his optimism right now is that they can contend for a playoff spot, but I don't expect them to make any moves before the Tuesday deadline.
Domo, Jeff Lloyd just texted me and he said he wanted to remind you, it's not a rebuilding year, it's a transitional year. There's a difference. You got to make sure you get that right. I hope that Howie stays the course. I hope he still sells within the next 20 some odd hours. Trade deadline 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. A couple of guys I got no issues with if they move. Derek Barnett. No, he got a sack yesterday. First sack in 12 games for Derek Barnett. Way to go, Derek. See you later. Bye. If they can get a decent trip. And we had fun with this with one of Jeff's cohorts from CBS Sports last week, suggesting the Eagles could get a third and or a third that could elevate to a second for Derek Barnett. No chance, no shot. No. But that's all. I digress. Derek Barnett, I would move. Andre Dillard, I would move. I would even be open to trading one of their cornerbacks because I know that's going to be something the teams will be on the lookout for. Avonte Maddox played well yesterday, got the hit on the scoop and score. Steven Nelson has been really good all year long for the Eagles, and he was a really smart addition. Here's one of the places I got to give Howie credit. He waited. Guys like you and me and Jeff and Johnny Mac. When are they going to get another starting corner? But when are they all off season? How can they go into the camp without they got Steven Nelson. They got him for a good price, and he's played really well. See you later. Bye. I'd trade him this week if they got the chance. Damo, I'm an all-sale guy. There's one thing to add players, which I don't think Howie's going to do. I think he's also negligent if he doesn't sell. Is he going to sell over the next day and a half?
Well, I don't know what you're going to get from most of those guys. Nothing that would. I mean, you're talking 6th round picks mostly. The only guy I thought that might have a chance at going here in the last few weeks was Andre Dillard, because I thought if a playoff team really fell into some problems at tackle, I mean, Dillard was an option, and so you might be able to get them to overpay. But other than that, their corners. I mean, Avonte Maddox is untouchable. That's the one guy you don't want to give up. A young guy that is playing well, that can play that slot or safety for the next, 5, 6, 7 years. If you traded Darius Slay, it would be a spirit killer for that defense. I mean, he's just a guy you don't want. That would send the wrong message in the locker room. Steven Nelson, sure, but Steven Nelson you're going to get a 7th round pick for. Derek Barnett, what's he got? He's being paid $10 million right now. Everybody knows you're not going to re-sign him. He's not going to make a difference for a team this year, really. Everybody's probably saying, well, we'll get him on the back end when he becomes a free agent in March. So I just don't know I don't know what options they have there, Jody.
Let me give you a hypothetical. Let's say someone is desperate for a slot corner, and they offer you a 3 for Avonte Maddox. You pulling the trigger?
They're not going to offer you a 3, but if they did, I still wouldn't do it. I like this kid a lot.
Okay, good.
He just adds. I mean, not only that's a hard position to fill. not everybody can play slot corner, and he just adapted well to it. He's got that short space quickness, that toughness to be able to play the run inside, and he's just the kind of guy you want on your team going forward. So I mean, if somebody offered me a 3, maybe I'd think about it, but I'd probably say thanks, but no thanks.
Well, I'm looking at the state of the NFC, and I watch way too much football for my own good. But there are a lot of bad teams in this guy. Everybody wants to talk about the top-heavy teams. I'm looking at the Bears, the Vikings, the 49ers. There's just a lot of bad teams here. What if you're the Eagles front office? You got to be thinking to yourself, not for this year, but 2022, 2023, we could compete. Like, how do you think that shapes up that offseason going forward?
Well, I mean, you mentioned a lot of those teams, and I'm sure they're looking at that as well. I mean, these are the teams we could, get by to make, win that third wild card. But I would hope they're aspiring a little higher, looking at Tampa Bay, the Rams. And typically Howie and Laurie have done that going through the years, even when Banner was here. They look at the top teams and try to replicate them. And they're still got a ways to go. Mainly because they've got to settle the quarterback position first, decide whether this is the guy or not. But there is some hope. But right now the NFC is a tougher conference than the AFC. So, but we're gonna learn a lot about this team in the next 3-4 weeks. I mean, that's when we're gonna find out what really is here, what they need to do going forward.
Domino effect question here. I don't believe Deshaun Watson is going to be traded to the Eagles over the next day and a half.
Right.
There's a small chance he could be traded. It's not going to be here to Philadelphia, but even that is a very small percentage. Deshaun Watson's not going to get dealt between now and 4:00 tomorrow, is he?
I can't imagine it. I mean, it's funny. Everybody that, like with Miami and Carolina, they're interested, but only if he settles the 22 suits against them. Like, that's not going to happen anytime soon. It's not going to happen next year. It's probably not going to happen the year after unless he wants to go bankrupt. So, I mean, I don't understand how anybody is close to trading for this guy.
Yeah, Paul, adding on with Deshaun Watson here, it just seems like, and yesterday was a perfect example. Like, Miami loses their 7th in a row. And the head coach, all he has to do is answer questions about Deshaun Watson. Like, they're not even answering questions about his team at this point. He goes, I actually think he got thrown a curveball in there because he was asked about his job. And he goes, well, I'm not really worried about that. Right now, I'm worried about getting my players better right now. But it just seems like this Deshaun Watson stuff has really clouded in what I felt was a talented Dolphins team all year.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't do our profession. It doesn't help our profession when these are the questions that are focused on coaches in these press conferences or even, I mean, the people that we're asking, well, is Nick Sirianni on the firing line? I mean, come on. Nick Sirianni's not going anywhere right now. He's not going to go anywhere after the season. He's here for multiple years, at least 2. Same thing with Howie. I mean, Howie's job isn't in jeopardy right now, as much as everybody would like it. As much as he hasn't done a particularly good job since 2017, but people kind of get bored with what's going on, that they're covering a bad team, so they kind of change the focus to something else.
All right, Damo, last question. It's kind of a hypothetical look in a crystal ball one for you. And I thank the Eagles for not only winning yesterday, but getting to a blowout position where I actually could turn the game off or spend more time when I flipped to the red zone to watch a game. I did that yesterday, and lo and behold, here's Carson Wentz. Got the ball in his own end zone. He's trying to throw a left-handed pass out of his own end zone. What the hell was he thinking? Titans go ahead. Sure enough, Carson gets him back down the field. 8 of a big pass interference penalty, which was blatantly obvious. They just try not to tackle the wide receiver before the ball gets there, Mr. Defensive Back. But they tie it up, goes to overtime, and sure enough, Carson throws another pick in OT. He'd only thrown 1 pick all year, threw 2 from the 4th quarter on yesterday. But the most important stat for Eagle fans is he played every snap of the game again. So he's now played 99% of the first 8 games. So it looks like he's going to play 75%, but the Colts also lost, and now they're kind of buried in that division behind the Titans. They're still, I guess, in the wild card mix. Give me a percentage confidence level Carson Wentz is going to play enough snaps that the Eagles are going to get a first-round draft pick.
That he came back from that two ankle injuries was, I didn't expect that. And he didn't miss a game. I think he's going to play the 70%. I don't think that's going to be a question. I think the question is how high the pick will be. Indianapolis is Tennessee's a good team. Tennessee could end up in the Super Bowl, in my opinion. Probably not, but they're going to be a contender there for one of the final four spots in the AFC. So I think that pick's going to drop a little bit. I think probably Indianapolis is going to be like a 9-8, maybe even a 10-7 team. Might even contend for one of the wild card spots. So you're looking at more of a middle of the pack pick, but still 3 picks in the first round. One's going to be Miami, which is going to be very high, and the Eagles, probably somewhere in the 10 range. So, we get back to putting our trust in Howie. I know that's scary, but they damn well better be scouring and between now and the end of the college football season, and then the workouts and the combine. They better be doing their homework.
Well, I got one for you quick. So when Carson went through the end zone interception, I saw Rob Body got everybody riled up yesterday. He said, that was a smart decision because if he fumbles it and if it's a safety, they don't get the ball back. And I was like, he's not wrong in theory. And I was just like, okay, well, whatever. I'm not thinking that far ahead. But did you think that was the right decision?
No, I actually didn't see that part of the game. I forget what game I was watching at the time, but yeah, the thing with Carson is, everybody kind of is rewriting history here. Nobody questioned whether he could play, whether he's a talented quarterback. It was his decision to leave. He said, "I don't want to be here anymore," and so then and I fault him for that because he wasn't strong enough to deal with Philadelphia and everything that came with it. He looked over his shoulder at Jalen. All the things I thought would never bothered him. But as far as him being a quarterback, he's a Pro Bowl quarterback. And, that he struggled like he did yesterday and made some stupid mistakes surprises me more than the fact that what he's been doing lately and playing well there.
He did not play well late in the game yesterday, which caused the Colts to lose, which, by the way, Dom, they're 3-5. They're not getting to 10 wins. More like 8 or maybe 9, which keeps them in the wild card race. They're not getting to 10 wins.
Tennessee out of the way, though. They're 0-2.
They get to play Texas and the Jaguars, so there's some wins.
You got Jacksonville and the rest of that division. Who am I missing in the NFC? In the AFC South?
Houston.
Yeah. So there's some easy wins.
Okay, we'll see. I'll take the under 10, maybe 9, and I hope that's the case because it'll keep them in the race.
Which will guarantee
that he gets to 75% of the snaps. Damo, great stuff. Appreciate you coming on. As always, we're going to be tapping into you again soon enough. Thanks, brother.
Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Paul Domowitch, doing works for Philly Magazine these days after covering the Eagles on the beat for a couple of decades. Always good to get Damo up with us here on Birds 365. He's Jeff Kerr. I'm Jody McDonald. We're coming back. More analysis on the Eagles' blowout. That's right, blowout win over the Detroit Lions yesterday. Keep it here on Birds 365.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia, we celebrated the miracle with pride only 5 years ago. And then the following morning, IBEW Local 98 members went back to work, building this city, rescuing our communities from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are. Like the Cats, Local 98 members believe in hope. John Doherty, business manager of Local 98, says it this way: the best way not to forget where you come from is to never leave.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Is a victorious Monday, Birch 365 here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Jody Mack in with you. Jeff Kerr with us today. John McMullen's flight didn't line up for him to be able to hop on with us. He will surely be back here tomorrow, helping celebrate a big Eagles win. Big in that it was the margin of victory, 44-6. Didn't see that one coming. I did think the Eagles were going to win. I think they were going to win handily. 44-6. Yeah, okay. I don't know anybody who can raise their hand and go, yeah, I had them winning by 38 points. But that's exactly what they did. And I do want to stick to that mainly, Jeff, because we are Birds 365. But Birds 365 is both present, future, and past. And I do want to go back into the past for just a second here, because I guess I annoyed Debbie Rush, one of our streamers, and comments on the stream as well, who chastised me for picking on Carson Wentz, saying, leave Carson alone, Jody. And no, I'm not going to do that. Sorry. I'm just not going to do that because I was a guy who defended Carson Wentz a lot last year. When they got off to a slow start, I said, come on, you can put this on Carson. This is more on other aspects of the Eagles. This is on the play calling. This is on the offensive line coming apart at the seams. Come on, this isn't Carson Wentz's fault. And with every passing week when Carson played worse, I had to acknowledge that, okay, maybe I'm overly protective of this guy. Maybe I am looking at this through Eagle-colored glasses, or at least Carson-colored glasses. And by the end of the year, I realized the guy was having a god-awful year, and he stunk up the joint. And I was a week, as far as I was concerned, Doug Peterson was at least a week behind in pulling Carson Wentz. I would have pulled him a week earlier than he did. And I had no issues with what Doug did and how he handled Carson Wentz last year. And when Carson forced his way out of town, wasn't the Eagles trading Carson, it was Carson trading Carson and forced his way out of town, I was perfectly fine with it because I had lost all faith and confidence in the guy, and I still have. I know that he won a couple of games in a row for the Colts yesterday, and he made some big plays, helped them get out to a 14-0 lead. But he made two god-awful decisions. I don't care what Rob Marty says. You can't throw the ball up for grabs out of your own end zone. If you're left-handed, he got bailed out a little bit by a pass interference penalty that let him get the OT, where he got to throw another pick. His strength so far this year had been he's cut down on the picks. He went right back to being old Carson Eagle style yesterday. I'm sorry. I just lost faith in Carson Wentz. Where are you at with Carson Wentz as of right now, Jeff Kerr?
So I was a guy, I really liked the pick when they made it, obviously. And, I totally thought he was going to be the franchise quarterback. I'll tell you when I soured on him. You and I would have had a great Birds 365 if this was around last year. I soured on him in 2019. I just said, you know what? I don't think this guy is as good as I thought or as Eagles fans think he is. And I think it was all they couldn't bear the fact that the guy Dallas took in the 4th round was way better than him and Dak Prescott. And I don't know when I actually turned on him. I don't want to say I turned, but I think that Patriots game in 2019, I just said, and look, he had the great finish to the year, and I defended him, but I'm like, this guy is not an elite quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback. And I just remember getting slammed for it, and I'm like, guys, I don't think they can win a Super Bowl with this guy anymore. I don't. And that's what it ultimately comes down to. And last year, I thought they should have benched him the Browns game. When he threw that pass at flat to Miles and whatever it was, and Siona, I always forget the guy's name. The linebacker on Cleveland, Siona Takataki, or he picked it off, took it in the end zone. I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm done. I'm tired of the mistakes. I'm tired of the excuses. I got tired of hearing I have to be better. I was tired of Doug defending him. And it seemed like it was everybody's fault but his. And from what I gathered last year, the young players in the Eagles locker room were not fans of Carson Wentz. They just weren't. And they all seemed to like Jalen Hurts. I'm like, well, why don't we give Jalen Hurts a shot here? And they did. And, Carson, Paul is absolutely right about that. Don was right. Carson checked out. It was, I don't want to be here anymore. This is it. Like, I don't care who the coach is. I don't care who the GM is. I don't care if I have the best roster in the world. I do not want to be in Philadelphia. And you can blame the toxic environment all you want, but Carson did not want to be there. Carson wanted to go back to the Midwest. Carson just did not want to be a Philadelphia Eagle anymore. So he left. Okay, I'm fine with that. But this year with the Colts, he should have thrown a couple picks last week in the win against the 49ers. And I've been giving him credit. He hasn't been turning the football over, but you're right. He was Carson again yesterday in a big game in a big spot that the Colts needed, just like over the years with the Eagles. He did not deliver. I'm sorry. I like Carson Wentz. I will stop worrying about Carson Wentz when the Eagles get that draft pick.
Right. I was surprised that he was as mentally soft as he turned out to be during the season when he got removed from the lineup. I know that it's crushing. I know that it's something that superstar quarterbacks with the Eagles that they need to have to become superstar quarterbacks never even envision. But sometimes reality smacks you upside the head. And Carson Wentz did not deal with reality well in the moment or the weeks where Jalen was starting. And certainly when the season ended, when he made it blatantly obvious he wanted to be elsewhere, getting out of Dodge while the getting gets tough. That's Carson Wentz's motto. And I was really disappointed with the way that he handled his own business. I was disappointed with his play because I, like you, thought he was going to be a franchise quarterback, was going to be the Eagles quarterback for a decade. He wasn't. And I'm not bemoaning the fact that he is no longer here anymore. Jalen Hurts may or may not be a future NFL quarterback, a guy who stays in a place for 5 years. I think that's still to be determined. Some people have already made up their mind that he's not good enough. I don't know anybody who's already made up their mind who says, oh, he's the guy. There are many more that have said, not, I'm dead in the middle, and I have no problems whatsoever being there. You've got all season to do that. You don't have to. Deshaun Watson is not getting traded tomorrow, folks. For those of you who say they got to make the decision because Deshaun, he's not going anywhere. He's not going to Miami. He's not coming here. He's not going to Carolina. He's not going anywhere. So if you want Deshaun Watson, you'll get your shot at him at the end of the season. You can't draft anybody from college football in the middle of the season either. So it's Jalen's job the rest of the year. Let's give him the whole year to prove what he is or isn't. Those who, you got to make your, I've seen enough. He can't play. He's not an NFL quarterback, or he's the next Lamar Jackson. He's neither of those things. He's still a TBD, to be determined. And I'm perfectly fine with that. And I'm also fine with stating this today. As far as mental toughness goes, it's not even close between Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz. The Eagles are playing the more mentally tough quarterback, and I think you need that to win in the NFL right now, Jeff.
Oh, I think you do too. And, it's funny because I did the Saints-Bucs game after the Eagles game yesterday, and I'm in on Sean Payton's press conference. I did not expect this to come out of Sean Payton's mouth, but he did a 97 Eagles flashback, Jody. He compared Trevor Siemian to Ty Detmer and said, mentally tough. He was ready to come in. He was ready to perform. I'm like, Ty Detmer, whoa, that's a throwback. And then I'm like, yeah, well, that makes sense because, Sean Payton goes Ty Detmer. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. And, I kind of see that. Look, compared to Jalen Hurts to Ty Detmer is insane, but I do see the mental toughness aspect of it. Like, you're asked to do something. Jalen Hurts has been throwing the football 30, 35 times a game. He throws it 14 times. Devonta Smith doesn't have a good game, doesn't get a lot of targets. I think it was McMullen that asked Jalen Hurts about, throwing the ball 14 times. He goes, I don't care. I care about winning. And I'm like, that's it. And, he gets it. And, I always thought Carson Wentz was that guy. He wanted to win games, but he wanted to win games and play well. Jalen Hurts, I don't think he cares. I think he looks at, he's the anti-Mina Kimes wins aren't a QB stat. Well, no, wins are a QB stat for Jalen Hurts. That's the only stat he cares about. We won the game. And that's one thing I like about this kid. That's one thing I think is going to help Jalen Hurts in the long run. I think that's what Nick Sirianni does like about him. He is tough. He has a lot of fortitude, has a lot of grit. And, it's one of those things, Jody, with Jalen Hurts. I want to give him the whole year, too. I am not sold on him as a franchise quarterback, but I also am not sold that he sucks. And he's not the franchise quarterback. And I got really upset yesterday when, they're running the ball to hide Jalen Hurts' deficiencies. I'm like, don't the Ravens do that with Lamar Jackson every single week and he don't have deficiencies? I just don't understand the mindset sometimes. Like, we went from a city where we once thought Rodney Peete, Ty Detmer, Bobby Hoying was going to be the franchise quarterback to now this guy ain't the franchise quarterback. I don't know. It must be a generational thing.
Might be. And I will say this about Jalen Hurts as well. He's a smart guy. And there are a lot of smart football players. And you talk to them after games and they give you their quotes and the like. And some guys you can just tell talk from the heart. Like Jason Kelsey, he believes absolutely everything he says. But you got some guys that give you coach speak, and you can just tell that they're saying it because they know it's safe to say, that they're not giving it a lot of thought. I believe everything Jalen Hurts says. Just the way that he delivers it and the way that he talks about it, I believe him when he says, all I care about is winning. That isn't just and you'd expect a lot of guys to say that because they're trained to say that. And that's what their coach says, and they just follow their coach's lead. But I believe it about Jalen Hurts, that he'd be perfectly fine having the day that he had yesterday as long as it ended in an Eagles win. And that's the kind of guy I think you want as your quarterback going forward. And
he even said yesterday, too, he's been saying that they're close. And he said, well, they finally did some things they wanted to do yesterday. And, you're going to say that when you win 44-6, And it just felt like this week especially, I think he really stood up for Nick Sirianni yesterday. Jalen Hurts can say all he wants about it's rat poison, social. I know he at least is paying attention to it. And Jalen Hurts won't respond. He won't tweet. But you kind of know he's listening. And I'm sure him and a lot of players did not like what guys like you and me were making fun of Nick Sirianni and the flower analogy and everything else. And I really felt this whole team in general. Maybe this is part of Jalen Hurts' leadership. You know what? We're going to go out and we're going to win a game for this guy. And because we're tired of hearing this guy can't do it or this, or we're checking out on him. Well, yesterday proved, I don't care who it is. It's an NFL team. They did not check out on Nick Sirianni yesterday. Checking out on Nick Sirianni would have been losing to the Lions. And if they play well against the Chargers next week, it's the same thing. I think this team does believe in this head coach. I think this team likes what this head coach provides them. I just don't know if they have the talent or not, and I don't know if Jalen Hurts is good enough yet. But I do think they do listen to this head coach, Jody.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I hear on Birds 365. I've been critical of Sirianni. I've second-guessed his play calling and certain decisions that he's made. But I have stayed steadfast on the fact that I thought the Eagles played hard every single, even in blowout, went late in the game. I thought they were still giving effort, which a first-year coach who hasn't built up any goodwill or gravitas over the course of his career can lose a locker room. I'll give you an example. Dan Campbell going forward. I know that everybody, well, not everybody, Jeff Carr being one of them, but too many people in my eyes were giving him credit for, they hang tough, they play tough. And they did. I'm not trying to say they didn't. They're just bad. They were a bad team coming in. They're a bad roster. They played bad yesterday. Watch going forward. I fear that that's going to be the case for the Lions. I think Lions could actually go 0-17 and not win a game and get the number 1 pick in the draft. And if the Eagles actually believe they do need a quarterback, the Lions are going to draft the quarterback. But Jared Goff playing the way he is, I don't care what his contract is. They will eat it going forward. If there is a quarterback that deserves to be drafted number 1, and there almost always is, they get pushed to the top. It happens every year. The Lions, I think, are going to get the first crack at that guy. Sorry, Eagle fans. I know as of right now, the Dolphins pick would be the number 2 pick in the draft. But if you want a quarterback, the Lions are going to get their first crack at who it's going to be. I would not be surprised if Jeff Kerr, over the next couple of months, the Lions check out on Dan Campbell. Because, and there was the possibility it could happen here with Sirianni because he was a bit of a rah-rah guy too. Not as over the top as Dan Campbell biting kneecaps, but he was a rah-rah guy. And sometimes when you're losing, that goes in one ear and out the other with players, and you can lose their attention. Sirianni never had, and he surely hasn't with yesterday's win. The question is now, will the Eagles actually have some momentum that they can build on? Does this kind of game give you momentum going forward?
I think it does. And look, we want to talk about the momentum game right now. When I covered the Chargers 3 weeks ago, I'm thinking to myself, this team might be the best team in the AFC. And then Baltimore smacks on them. They get a bye week. They get 14 days to prepare for a Patriots team I don't think is that great. And the Patriots beat them in LA. So now all of a sudden they're 5-4, or 4-4, I think. That's right, they had the bye week. So they're 4-4. And now I'm thinking to myself, hold on a second. Now the Eagles might be able to beat them. Because they can't stop the run. And the Patriots pounded them yesterday on the ground. And Baltimore did the same thing a couple weeks ago. I'm sorry. You know what? They're Chargers 4-3. Again, I'm losing track of these teams with the bye weeks. So anyway, Eagles got momentum after this week's win. Now all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, we're getting a team from LA. They're sliding a little bit. Brandon Staley was the next coming, the next Sean McVay. Now all of a sudden he's vulnerable. And by the way, they're going out east. And I know that's an old, but look, it's still going to be, what time's the game, Jody? Is it 4 or is it 1 this week?
Coming up, 4:05 game.
Okay, so it will be a 1 o'clock game for them at their time. But still, it's one of those that you could see the momentum building. And this team, they showed they can run the ball. They showed they can pound the football whenever they like. They did it against Atlanta and they did it against Detroit. They should do it this week. And if they can get to Justin Herbert a bit and not allow those big plays to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, they have a shot. And you never know, if they get a win like that, it could turn around their season, because all of a sudden you're looking at 4-5, and you got Denver, and you got a Saints team coming up without Jameis Winston. I know Saints are really good, but not having quarterback is going to hurt them in the long run. And then you get that easy part of the schedule where you get to play Giants twice and you get to play Washington twice, and you just never know, Jody. This could be like that. I don't want to call it a get-right game, but a momentum-swinging game, even though it was only Detroit.
And Jeff, here's where you and I agree. Couple people. Now, I'm not saying everybody, but some people, and to a certain extent, overreact and like to elevate players a little too fast before they've actually earned it. And there are two individuals who are coming to town this week that's the case. Number one, Coach Staley with the Chargers. Good start. Nice hire. Well-respected guy around the National Football League. Moved up the potential head coach charts pretty damn quickly. But his resume is what his resume is. That he wasn't in a power position until last year as a coordinator. That I thought that people were making him, the choice as the next NFL head coach a little too quickly. Got off to a fast start. Everybody beating their chest. See, Staley, those coaches that didn't get Coach Staley. Shame on them. The Chargers won the big battle for Coach.
The Eagles were one of those teams. Everybody was questioning that going into
correct. And now that they've lost 2 games in a row, sure, is this Staley guy as good as we think? Yeah, he's good, but don't make him Bill Belichick because he won a couple of games or because there were so many teams that were interested that interviewed him during this past offseason. Let him establish a record. Let's see what we can do in the National Football League rather than just project and predict as if you know what's going to happen at a time. And to a lesser extent, and I'm a big fan, and I was when he was at Oregon, I sat on my radio shows and said, this guy's making a mistake not coming out when he was a junior, because I think he would have been the number one pick in the draft, as a matter of fact. He went back to Oregon. I tipped my cap to him because he wanted to go back to school and take a shot at making it to a Rose Bowl. He felt he owed that to his teammates. It was a goal he had when he went to Oregon. He wanted to try and get there. Good for him. Guys don't make commitments like that. They all think about, let me get to the NFL as fast as possible. Let me make the most money possible. I gave him a nod for that. I thought he was crazy because I'm one of those guys. I'm going to put myself in the best position possible. Love my teammates, but sorry, I'm a number one guy. Justin Herbert wasn't like that. And I questioned him, but I loved him for it. So he ends up going number 6. He lands with the Chargers. Tyrod Taylor gets hurt. He gets an immediate chance to play. He had some really good games. He made some really highlight-type throws. Chargers didn't make the playoffs last year, but in listening people to describe Justin Herbert, because he was the third quarterback taken and he outperformed Tua, he outperformed Burrow because Burrow got hurt, people put him on a pedestal. He didn't make the playoffs last year, and he's gotten off to a nice start this year. Now they've lost 2 in a row, and they're not a lock to make the playoffs this year. It just annoys me when individuals in the media, not all, but just generally speaking, have to be the first. They got to have the hot take. Justin Herbert is going to be the next Tom Brady. No, well, can we wait till he does it for a couple of years before we start talking him with these platitudes? It annoys the snot out of me. I guess that's my long and roundabout, long-winded way of saying.
I got one for you. I actually saw a tweet yesterday. Well, Nick Sirianni saved his job this week. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, seriously, and people were retweeting and favoriting the crap out of it. I'm just like, guys, Nick Sirianni his fate wasn't going to change whether he won or lost that game. Now, you and I would be talking about it on a Monday morning, where's this going from here? But no, he did not save his job with a win over the Detroit Lions. I'm sorry, he didn't. It's, I really didn't think Nick Sirianni was going to be a one-and-done coach until he got desperate and had to play Gardner Minshew. And whatever week that would have been. Or, he didn't make any adjustments, or John McMullen didn't make any adjustments. And look, I hype up Justin Herbert a lot too, because he is really good. And I thought he was the sole reason the Chargers were 7-9 last year. Big Justin Herbert fan here. But yeah, you're right. It just seems like we're overhyping everybody. I'll give you one, Jody. Your boy, Mike White, on the Jets. Robert Saleh had to open Pandora's box and say, anything's possible regarding the long-term starting quarterback. I'm like, are we really going this route right now? Is that the route you want to take after being the first quarterback ever to throw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns in his first start, to be the first quarterback since Steve Young to trail double digits with 5 minutes left and win a football game in his first start? I'm thinking to myself, didn't they just draft Zach Wilson? Like, didn't Tony Romo just call Zach Wilson the next Patrick Mahomes like 2 months ago? I don't know, Jody. I just feel like we hype up everything now. It's, I'm sure I can find some obscure stat on Trevor Siemian today to get Saints fans all riled up. He's the guy. Don't get Drew Brees. Don't get Cam Newton. Don't get Nick Foles. Stick with Trevor Siemian.
Well, I'll give Mike White this much credit. I didn't see it coming. There's a reason that they traded for Flacco this week, because the Jets didn't see it coming either. No. Robert Saleh can do the best 20/20 hindsight he wants to and pump up Mike White. And more power to him. I'll say this. He's going to play on Thursday night. Jets play on Thursday night. If he wins, even if Wilson is ready, I'm giving Mike White another start. You rip off 2 wins in a row, one of which you go 400 yards, unless he has like a Jets win a defensive 9-7 struggle that he throws 3 picks in. If he's the winning quarterback for the Jets this week and has a decent game, he starts the next week for me. So I do agree with Robert Saleh there. All right, he is Jeff Kerr. I'm Johnny McDonald with your Birds 365, guys. We still got a half an hour to chop up what the Birds did. Keep it right here on Birds 365.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messon Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messon Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia, we celebrated the miracle with pride only 5 years ago. And then the following morning, IBEW Local 98 members went back to work, building this city, rescuing our communities from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are. Like the Cats, Local 98 members believe in hope. John Doherty, business manager of Local 98, says it this way: the best way not to forget where you come from is to never leave.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
We are your Birds 365 guys here on the JAKIB YouTube channel. Jeff Curran for Johnny Mack, who's winging his way back from Detroit. A victorious Monday victory lap for the Birds after their 44-6 win over the Detroit Lions. For those of you just tuning in, we gave the Eagles plenty of props for their blowout win against the Detroit Lions. At least one of us here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel saw it coming. I had the Eagles winning by double digit. How many did you have the Eagles winning by this week, Jeff Kerr?
I did not have them winning at all, Jody Mack. I had them losing to the Detroit Lions this week. I thought karma was going to get the best of them this week, but I digress. I'm still 6-2 on making Eagles pick. I'm on a 2-game losing streak now. I'm starting to get like the Lions.
Not too bad. I'm 7-1, and I wasn't the only one who picked the Eagles. I was the only one who picked the Eagles to win in blowout fashion, and I'd love to say I picked them by 38 points. No, I thought they were going to win by 10 or 14, maybe 2 touchdowns, not by as much as they did. And as we discussed with Paul Domowitch, who was on with us earlier, and if you missed Domo's interview, you go back and watch it because, as always, Domo is good. This is a little thing that's underrated, and it's been a long time since I was a player. Like 35 years since yours truly played some hoops back in the day. But I remember it like it's yesterday. It's amazing. I played on some really good teams. I played on some really bad teams. It's funny. My from 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 4 years regular season basketball, we lost 1 game. Undefeated 3 of the 4 years. 1 year we went 14-1. Or 15-1, 16 games. My freshman year in high school, we were 0-16. So you talk about culture shock. I lost 1 game in 4 years. My first year in high school, we lost every game. We were 1-15. We won a forfeit because the other team couldn't play. But we lost every game that we played. So I've been on both ends of it. And it does. When the guys on the bench get to play, everybody just feels better after the game. You know that you're one of the stars, you're one of the key guys, you're going to decide whether you win or lose. But your good buddy is like the 10th guy on the basketball team, and he doesn't always get into games, or he shouldn't get into games. My buddies used to get in all the time because we blew everybody out. But it just made everybody feel better, and I think that's an under-the-radar plus for the Eagles in yesterday's game. everybody got a chance to play. Their backup offensive linemen, the mustache man, Gardner Minshew getting in and getting some snaps. Sean Bradley on defense getting some quality snaps at linebacker for the Eagles. I think that's an underplayed aspect of yesterday's game. Fans love a blowout, but teams love blowouts too because they give everybody a chance to play.
Well, my sophomore year of high school, we had our first winning season in 13 years, and we had a lot of blowout wins that year with first-year head coach. And, I'm a young, promising player. I didn't think I was going to play at all sophomore year, but we blew out a lot of teams. So I played 8 games. I was like, I'm ecstatic. And lo and behold, it led to more playing time my junior year, led to starting senior year. It was one of those things. It was a snowball effect. And you're right. It does help when you blow out teams, and not in the losing variety, in the winning variety, because I think it does help in the long run. You're right. You see a guy like Sean Bradley get it. Kenny Gainwell gets those valuable carries up the middle that he would not have gotten in the first and second quarter yesterday. But he does get those reps, and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was out yesterday, I believe, but he would have gotten reps. A lot of guys, Jack Stoll even, this is your number 2 tight end now. People seem to forget that. And you got guys like Brett Toth coming in. I remember when they pulled Hurts for Minshew, I'm like, well, Brett Toth is, so the backups are in. I'm like, well, sooner or later at some point this year, this team is going to have to rely on Brett Toth, for a couple of plays or whatever. So you get that valuable experience. So, yeah, I'm with you, Jody. I actually think it is valuable when you get to play guys in a blowout win like that. And when you get to pull your starter with what was it, 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter? It's a pretty big deal. I'm pretty – again, the snowball effect does help. I was the opposite of you, Joey. So my 8th grade year, my first year playing football, we were really good, but we only had 16 kids, so we were 0-10. Next year, my freshman year, we sucked. We were 1-9. We won a game 8-6, and I was furious because we only won 8-6. We should have beat them by like 20 points, but it is what it is. And then I transferred to a different school. We win football games all the time. It's it was definitely a lot different. But again, that whole losing culture, that losing mentality, how you get rid of that? Convincing wins. It really does kind of switch the – I want to say – how can I word it? Not the momentum, but the feel of the locker room. It's Detroit definitely had that feeling yesterday. It was not us again. The Eagles didn't get that.
Here's where Nick Sirianni scores big points for me, and I think with his locker room as well. They had played hard throughout for him. I'm not questioning that they were on the precipice of quitting and or him losing the locker room, because I don't believe that's the case. But you could always add strength in your belief by your players with a good week's game plan and a good positioning of your players in a spot where they can win. Nick Sirianni showed flexibility this week. He had talked a good game about, we're just a burgeoning flower, and some are water and some are fertilizer. We now know the infamous speech that he gave. Well, he's allowed to give another speech again this week. I don't know where he's going to go. He may go, Rome wasn't built in a day or a month or a week. Who knows? He may go compound interest on your money when you put it away. I don't know where he's going to go, but he gets to, because when he gave the flower speech this week, guys like me, a lot of us rolled our eyes. What the hell is he talking about? Even though he understood where he was attempting to go, he wasn't doing a very good job getting there. He did this week, and he did so with his players. We can have our opinions on it here, Bird 365, WIP, The Inquirer, whatever. Anybody, Eagles fans, checking in on the phones, on Twitter, wherever else. The only ones that really matter are the players. Nick Sirianni has to put it out there for public consumption. That's part of your job as the coach of the Eagles. You must let the fans know what you think you're trying to do and accomplish. But don't kid yourself. He's more talking to the guys in that room. Even when he's facing Jeff Kerr and John McMullen, Jeff McClain, everybody else on a either live or on a Zoom call, he's talking to his players. And I don't know if the flower speech got through or whatever, but it worked because they played better and he showed more flexibility. He talked about making changes and we got to react. And I thought it might just all be Pap and him wordplaying everybody. No, he actually went out and did it by allowing his players to do things. He ran the ball and ran it again, something he hadn't shown the willingness and desire to do the first 7 games. I think Nick Sirianni scored points with not only the fan base here in town with this win, but I think he scored a lot of points with his players too. How about you?
Oh, I agree. And, last week was, they played hard at the end of the game and did not make that a blowout, the blowout that it was. And kudos to them. But you could tell, like, those guys were frustrated. Jason Kelce, where he deserved the penalty or not, he did not. He was frustrated with that result. Fletcher Cox was frustrated right after the game, with Jonathan Gannon and what he was doing. And I honestly think those guys sat in there with those coaches, and those coaches listened to them. And that's a big positive. And you remember the Chip Kelly years. That's why those players are always so upset. Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy, all those guys. Kelly had listened to them. Well, no, I'm the reason you're winning games, not you. And Nick Sirianni, I think, does the anti-approach where, no, you guys are going to be the reason why I win a football game. Tell me what you need to do to win said football game. I'm sure Fletcher Cox said, look, have us blitz more. You need to do this. You need to help us out here. You need to help our cornerbacks. You need to help our linebackers. And Jonathan Gannon did listen to him. And same with Nick Sirianni. I think that, who knows if Jalen Hurts went to Nick Sirianni and said, hey, Nick, gotta run the ball a little bit, man. I mean, we just do. We're getting a little too pass happy here with the bubble screens and whatnot. And, and like he said, Monday he knew he could run the football. So either he's talking to players or they had a coaches meeting or they were watching the film or a combination of all of them. But yeah, I definitely think it was, if you did like a stock watch on Nick Sirianni going into the week, you bought low, but it definitely trended up, especially with the 53 guys in that locker room, plus the 12 to 14 guys on that practice squad. And I think that's really going to help this team, not only this year, but going forward. It felt like, when Andy Reid won that first game against the Cowboys in 1999, like you could see those guys, they were starting to believe in this coach and they were starting to play for this coach. And that's definitely something they've been doing with Nick Sirianni this year.
Let me ask you about this with Sirianni. One of the post-game interviews, I think it was with Johnny Clark on NBC late night after the game was over and done with. He said that he actually ran the football as much as he did, in part because his offensive line coming off the field, almost to a man, came over to him and said, "This is working. We're on a roll. Let's continue to do this. We're just eating them up along the offensive line. Put this on our backs and let us take this team home." I'm sure that was actually what transpired. I don't think Nick would make that up, because if they didn't, they'd all look at each other. Who the hell's he tell you? Did you go over to him? And that wouldn't play real well. So I'm sure guys did that. The key is that he listened and he bought into it. Do you think that was the case, that he's the kind of guy who will be open to listening to his players when they come off the field and then take their advice and implement it into his game plan?
Oh, I think so. I think that's what sold him on, the brain trust that hired him in the first place. I think he shows he's a guy like, look, he's only 40 years old. So he's not that far off from some of these players here. And look, he's a young guy, and the analogies are quirky and some of the press conferences are quirky. But at the end of the day, I think he is willing to sit down and talk to players and just say, hey, look, what do you need? Are you happy right now? It's almost like, a really good boss or a good CEO. Like, look, what can I do better? What can I do to help you out? And I'm sure he takes the opinions of Jalen Hurts, Fletcher Cox, Darius Slay, Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, all these guys seriously. Like, I'm sure when Lane Johnson had his mental health issues, he was telling Nick about it, and Nick said, you got to take time you need, man. Like, don't let this thing bottle up. I think a lot of, like, what Lane Johnson was going through, Nick Sirianni helped him with that. And, again, I think that gains the respect of that locker room. It's like, look, this guy is here for us. He's here to back us up. He's not going to throw us under the bus. He's going to take the heat on himself. And look, that's one thing I really liked about this week, even though I did pick the Eagles to lose. This head coach definitely took all the deflection off of Jonathan Gannon after starting the week, saying he needs to improve and needs to do this, needs to adjust, with the flower comment. And Nick Sirianni may have been laughing to sleep saying, you know what, everybody's all not getting on Jalen Hurts. They're not getting on this guy. They're getting on me for a flower analogy I said in the locker room. So, I actually think, his players listen. They do. Not his players. Like, he listens to his players. That is one thing I think he does really well. Whether he knows the X's and O's, it's one of those things to me, at the very least, that he has the trust of his players and his players trust in him. I think that's going to be huge for them in the second half of the year.
And checking in on the stream today is a guy whose name you may recognize, Barrett Brooks. Says they could have been running the ball all year.
I'm not disagreeing with him.
Spoken like a true offensive lineman who would rather run block than pass block every day of the week and twice on Sundays. We're hearing you, Barrett. Thanks for checking in. But he's right. They could have been running the ball more. Not to the extent they did yesterday. Part of the reason why they ran it as much as they did yesterday was the Lions are terrible against the run. The Lions are terrible, period. But they're especially terrible at defending the run, and the Eagles had the capability to run the ball down their throat, and they did. Now, next week against the Chargers are as bad, if not worse. Statistically, they're actually worse against the run than Detroit is. I'm not sure if they actually are, but the stats are the stats, and the Eagles should do that. Here's the difference between the Chargers and the Lions. And that's why this upcoming game is going to be closer than this past game. Going way out on a limb here. Nobody's winning by 38 points in this upcoming game. The Chargers can move the ball on offense. Herbert is good. They've got offensive weapons. They're not going to roll over and die like the Lions did offensively yesterday. So if the Rams are scoring, the Chargers are scoring points, the Eagles are going to have to reply in kind and try and score points of their own. Now, you can do that running the ball. It takes a little bit longer. It isn't instantaneous the way that some offensive pass plays can be, but don't give up on it, Nick. Stick with it next week, even if the Chargers should get out to a little bit of a lead. Do you think Sirianni's got that kind of gumption?
Well, I think he should. And this is one thing when I got to see Chargers in person a couple weeks ago. You got guys like Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell, and Devonta Freeman just pounding the football down your throat. And keep in mind, the Ravens do have Lamar Jackson, but the Eagles have a running quarterback in Jalen Hurts too. They can do this, no matter if it's Boston Scott or Jordan Howard or Kenny Gainwell or whoever it's going to be next week. They have to stay committed to it. You know, they just can't abandon it because they're getting 2 or 3 yard runs. Barrett's talking about run the ball. I actually just watched an Eagles game where Barrett's getting frustrated they're not running the ball, and he was playing in the game. So it was against the Panthers in 1996. Ray Rhodes all of a sudden decided, I'm not going to give the ball to Ricky Mars anymore. I'm just going to throw the ball to Ty Detmer all day long. And you can see like him and Joe Panos, they're just shaking their heads like, come on, man, just pound the football. Give us a break so we're not going 3 and out route here. And it's definitely an offensive lineman speak here, but the Eagles can pound the football, and they have offensive linemen. Like, look, they were hyping up Nate Herbig yesterday. Like, no tomorrow. Like, look, Nate's been in this league. Nate's a good guard, and he can run block. So run the football. And, Jason Kelsey the same way. He made his reputation in this league as a good run blocking center. Jordan Milano, we know what he can do when you get him to the second level. Same with Lane Johnson. They have to stay committed. They have to against the Chargers defense. Extend the drive. Keep Justin Herbert and that big play offense off the field. The Chargers are really good in 20-plus yard plays. Find a way to keep Justin Herbert cold. How do you do that? Run the football, control time of possession. It's old school thinking, but guess what? Old school thinking, it works, especially against a team like the Chargers.
And Driscoll got hurt yesterday. We'll hopefully find out more about that today. Hopefully it's not a long-term injury because I think he's done a nice job. And I continue to go back 20/20 hindsight, but I stand by my judgment. They never should have moved Mailata over to the right. They just should have left Driscoll out there because Herbig is a good backup guard. We talk about it all the time here. Johnny Mack pounds on it more than I do, but he likes the Eagles' depth along their offensive line. That is one of the strengths of this team. And I agree with him, but he's even more strong in that belief that guys can fill in when need be along the offensive line if they position him correctly, which is Herbig at guard and not moving a Mailata from a left side to a right side. That just didn't work. But hopefully Driscoll's good because I think he's done well, and I hate to see his season, which is a nice progression season, be curtailed because of an injury. But if it is, they'll be okay next week with Herbig filling in. He did a really nice job opening up holes yesterday on the Eagles' offensive line. All right, defensive line got home 6 times yesterday, Jeff Kerr, 6 times, 6 sacks, their biggest sack game in years, as a matter of fact. And part of it was because they blitzed. Even though all 6 were by down defensive linemen, which means none of the blitzers actually got sacks. If you watch the tape, you watch the game, you know that the blitzers opened up the possibility for the D linemen to make that play. Jonathan Gannon showed flexibility. We know he's not a blitz guy. We know he likes to play the cover 2 zone and just send his front 4. We can't really complain because, we used to get blitzes all the time. No, we didn't under Jim Schwartz. So it's the same, but the zone has been softer. Coming out of nowhere, a whole bunch of blitzes. TJ Edwards getting that much more playing time and being used as a blitz guy. Tip of the cap to Jonathan Gannon. He showed a lot of flexibility. Was this a 1-week wonder thing? We're going to catch him off guard because Gannon talked a lot about it when the season started. Deception. We're going to be a team that you're not going to see what's coming. Well, the Lions didn't see what's coming, but the Lions are also not very good. Do you think this marks a turn in Jonathan Gannon's philosophy, and I'm not knocking it, I'm just saying it could be just a 1-week wonder thing because they needed to win as badly as they are against the Lions. How do you read into Jonathan Gannon's changing on the fly the defense for this week's game?
Well, they better do it next week because Storm Norton is not good at right tackle, and Josh Sweat can have a field day against him, and there's one way to do that. Send 5, send 6 guys. I know the Chargers have Corey Linsley, really good center, all-pro last year. We all know how good Rashad Slater has been. I mean, really, if they picked a real offensive rookie of the year outside of Jamar Chase, it'd probably be Rashad Slater, but they don't pick offensive line. That's how good he's been at left tackle. But that right side of the Chargers line, you can come after, and you can come after quick. And I think the way to free up Joshua and Derek Barnett, and I hope John McMullen learned this yesterday, blitz people. So they're not getting a double team on the outside when they're rushing. And, we don't have to make the joke. Derek Barnett has as many sacks in this room as you and I do. We don't have to do that anymore. So I'm looking at it as, please, I'm begging you. I said this with Nick Sirianni with the motion. He actually ran motion yesterday. Actually did play action. Jonathan, again, please listen to your own players and watch your own film. It does work when you blitz. It would have worked against Tom Brady to an extent because the Saints blitzed him yesterday and got him out of his little comfort zone. And Brady had a couple turnovers. Look, Justin Herbert can throw for 400 yards Sunday. I'm okay with that. But they can get 2 to 3 turnovers and it determines the outcome of the game. That's the NFL now. So, again, Justin Herbert's going to beat you because he's a good quarterback. But he also doesn't do that well under pressure. So the Eagles have to find a way to get him uncomfortable and get him rolling out a little bit. And yeah, he can run, which scares me, but I would blitz him again. I would not rush 4. I would not play that soft zone. I would not let those long methodical drives happen. I'd say, we get a big play to Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, so be it.
I think your analysis is spot on. I don't know how the Eagles defense coordinator is going to respond. Because he does like to keep the other quarterback from blowing up. And he's done a good job. Shoot, Derek Carr, even in the unbelievable game that he had, wasn't making down the field 45, 50-yard throws. It was all the underneath stuff. And I think now that they're facing another quarterback that merits respect, sorry, Jared Goff, you just don't merit respect. With the way you were playing, the fact that you went to the Super Bowl with the Rams a couple of years ago doesn't factor into yesterday's game. The Eagles coaching staff didn't look at it that way. I think they're going to show Herbert the respect that he's earned. And I admit he deserves a ton of respect. Some people have already put him up here, which annoys me. He's a year and a half in the league, and have already elevated him to can't-like status. I'm not going there. But he is a very good quarterback who's had a very good year and a half to this point. I fear that Jonathan Gannon is going to fall back into his comfort zone, which is, all right, we're going to back up. We're going to give him the underneath stuff. As long as he's not beating us down the field and we can just wait for that big play. And they got one yesterday. They got a strip sack, touchdown, return. Darius Slay finally paid off. They've been waiting for weeks for something like that to happen. It finally did. I fear that Jonathan Gannon, I have more faith. Let me put it this way. See if you agree. I have more faith in Nick Sirianni sticking with he did, running the football, playing the strength against strength game, and just challenging the other team to stop you by handing off the football, than I am about Jonathan Gannon playing an aggressive game where he's bringing blitzers. I got more faith that Sirianni does what he did in this blowout win this week, next week, than I do the DC. How about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way, Jody. And look, I want to see Gannon do this next week for one reason only. Justin Herbert is the best quarterback you're going to face until you see Dak Prescott in what, week 15, week 16? They're not
18,
facing him.
Last week of the season.
Yeah, last week of the season. There you go. See, I'm even off there. You are not facing a good quarterback after Justin Herbert. So do what you did this week. Show you could do this against a good quarterback. I don't care if he beats them for 80-yard touchdowns. If he does, he does. But you're going to get home on a couple of these plays, and you're going to get him to get arrogant and force something. Because, again, young quarterbacks do this. Patrick Mahomes does it. And he's the best quarterback in the league. Maybe not this year, but he's overall talent. He's the best quarterback in the league. So, yeah, you have to I know he could do it against Jared Goff. He'll do it against Teddy Bridgewater. He'll do it against Trevor Siemian. He'll do it against Daniel Jones and Taylor Heineke. I don't care. They're not good quarterbacks. Justin Herbert's a really good quarterback. Do it against him. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you lose. Do it against him and show that you're not afraid of these guys. Because that's what has bothered me about Jonathan Gannon. Like, I think you're letting Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes pick you apart. Show no fear when you play these guys. I don't want to hear about your talent or your personnel now. We're in week 9. I don't care anymore. You are what you are. But at least show some backbone and say, you know what, Justin Herbert, we are not letting you go 32 for 40 for 350. Oh, and by the way, your team scored 38 points anyway. Let him go 20 for 39 for 350 and give him a couple touchdowns there with a couple picks. That's all I'm asking.
Very good point by JG there, JK there. Coming up on the Eagles schedule, 2 Daniel Jones games, 2 Taylor Heineke games, a Teddy Bridgewater game, a potential Trevor Siemian game. Oh, but they are facing the immortal Mike White. Beware the Jets and Mr. White.
Will Mike White be the quarterback, though, when they face the Jets?
Yeah, he's going to win. What the Jets are going to rip off of us? How many games the Eagles got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. So, yeah, 4 more wins in a row from Mike White. 5-0. Jets are going to be on a 5-game win.
You got to remember this, Jody. Jets only beat first-place teams. The Eagles are definitely not that.
Shoot, you're right about that. Took out the Titans, took down the Bengals. Everybody else they're 2-0 against divisional leaders, 0-5 against the rest of the National Football League. But that was without Mike White. Beware.
You do win at home, so that's a trap game, Jody.
The immortal Mike White. All right, he's Jeff Kerr. I'm Jody McDonald. We'll take our final timeout. Come back, put a bow on the show here on Birds 365.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia, we celebrated the miracle with pride only 5 years ago. And then the following morning, IBEW Local 98 members went back to work, building this city, rescuing our communities from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are. Like the Cats, Local 98 members believe in hope. John Doherty, business manager of Local 98, says it this way: the best way not to forget where you come from is to never leave.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Jeff Curran for John McMullen. J-Mac will be back tomorrow. He's coming back from Detroit, so he could not bond with us today. Fear not, you'll get your Johnny Mac fill tomorrow. Sure, JK did a great job filling in for us today with me, Jody Mac, here on Birds 365. All right, the Eagles ran the ball as effectively as they did. We'll hear today, I think, some pride from anybody who gets a chance to speak. It'll be Nick Sirianni, and then you get some players as the week goes on. Coming up with a big game against the Chargers this week. I think they will stay true to the run game. You know, I kind of feel bad for. I do want to give him at least a mention in today's game, today's show. Your boy Miles Sanders, because had the Eagles done this previously this year, I think that the apple could have turned faster. That I think Miles Sanders was capable of doing that, and they just chose not to run the ball as much as they did yesterday. He's not even around for. On the week that the Eagles finally go, all right, we're committing to the run, Miles Sanders is watching on the sideline. Kind of feel bad for Miles Sanders today.
In fairness to Nick, he kind of did commit to the run the week before when Miles Sanders had like 5 carries for like 25 yards on the touchdown or whatever he had that first drive, and then he got hurt. So, on the screenplay or whatever. But yeah, I did think that was kind of ironic. And I always laugh because whenever I tweet about Miles Sanders and like how he's third in the NFL in yards per touch since he's entered the league and all these obscure Miles Sanders facts like that, he always seems to retweet them. It's almost like he's telling Nick, run the ball, Nick, run the ball. Look what I can do. And, it's just one of those funny things with Miles Sanders. And God, I wish he would have played yesterday because it could have felt like that Bills game in 2019 when him and Jordan Howard just ran for 200 off them, and they just beat the crap out of Buffalo in Buffalo. And I don't know, Jody. I kind of hope he does this whenever Miles Sanders comes back. He's got another 2 games before he's eligible to come back, and I don't think he comes back to after the bye week. And when's their bye week? It's week 12. It's a late bye week this year.
Somewhere there about 14, week 14.
14. Oh yeah, it's a really he'll be back before that. So
right,
yeah, it's one of those where I just hope he stays to his word, and I agree with you. I think he will because I think he knows the situation he's dealing with here, and he knows that's their best chance to win football games right now. He's not disguising the quarterback. That's what good coaches do. They use the strengths to their players, and Jalen Hurts can run the ball. Jordan Howard can run the football. Boston Scott can run the football. Roll with it.
All right, let me give you a chance to win back the audience here, Jeff Carr, despite the fact that you picked the Lions to beat the Eagles this week. Monday Night Football action tonight. Kansas City Chiefs against the New York Giants. I know your overall thoughts about the New York Giants, their team, their coach, and the like. How about the Giants pulling an upset against the Chiefs tonight?
Not happening. I'm sorry. It is not happening. If the Giants beat the Chiefs, I'll give up on Kansas City. I'm sorry. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes should smoke this team. I don't care how bad their defense is. I don't want to hear about the Giants return their season around because they beat the Carolina Panthers and Sam Darnold. Who gives a crap? The Eagles beat the Panthers. Again, they should kill this team. This is the get-right game for the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm still a little upset Dallas beat Minnesota, even though I kind of figured it was going to happen just because Dallas seems like that team of destiny this year. I still don't think the Cowboys are as great as people make them out to be. I still think Tampa's better. I still think the Rams are better. I think the Packers are better than them. They're a good team in a loaded conference, but come talk to me when they win playoff games.
That's fair, and I did not see it coming with Cooper Rush. I thought they were a lock with Dak Prescott when I thought he was going to play. Ends up he doesn't play. Tip of the cap to Cooper Rush and the entire Cowboys team for being able to win that game with a quarterback who's been on the team for about a decade and a half and just seems to never get into a game. He got in, started, and sure enough got a win. So I
got one for you, Jody. Your boy Mike White. You know the Cowboys cut him for Clayton Thorson.
Really?
Yep.
I did not know that. I know at one point they put Ben DiNucci into games before Cooper Rush, and we saw Ben last year, thank you very much, in a very ugly Eagles season. At least they had Ben DiNucci to thank for a W. Good for Cooper Rush. Should be a fun game tonight. I think they're going to be a ton of points scored. And, oh, by the way, I've said this basically on every show I've done for, it seems like 6 weeks now. I give the NFL both credit and give them good luck. The primetime games always are great. Even the stinky Thursday night, the matchup looks bad on paper. And Thursday, we don't really need. The game hangs in the balance till the very end.
This game Thursday night should be good just because of the Mike White effect. Everybody wants to see what Mike White's going to do on Thursday. I remember last week, I got the Jets and the Colts. Who gives a crap? Now I'm excited.
Last night couldn't get any better. Right down to the end, the Cooper catch to lift them to victory. I would not be surprised if tonight's game is good for, all right, about 3/4. I think the Chiefs will pull away. Neither you or I are picking the Giants tonight, but I think there'll be a whole bunch. You like points scored? There'll be a whole bunch of points scored tonight because Patrick Mahomes is going to do plenty, and the Chiefs defense stinks. So even Daniel Jones may be able to put some points on the board. Good luck to both the Chiefs and the Giants tonight. Jeff Kerr, I'm not going to get a chance to talk to you for a bit because I'll be here tomorrow. Johnny Mack will be with us. And then I've got a family wedding that I need to attend to. So I'm going to miss a bunch of shows this week. Don't know if you'll be on with Johnny Mack or you'll come in and do a guest spot. I'll probably get you next Monday. Oh, no, Eagles are home, so Johnny Mack will be here. I'll talk to you down the road, Jeff Kerr. I just want to thank you very much. You did a great job with us here again today. Look forward to doing it with you again down the road.
Yeah, you and me both got ways on. My college roommate's getting married this weekend. So, you know,
very nice.
It'll be a fun time. Hopefully I'm back in time for the Eagles game. We'll see, but it's going to be an interesting Friday and Saturday. I'll say that.
Enjoy, my friend. And I will enjoy being back here tomorrow with Johnny Mack. 22 hours from now, that much closer to the trade deadline on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube.